Everyone knows the phrase survival of the fittest. It became the slogan for evolution itself. But what does fittest actually mean? Strongest, fastest, most aggressive? Then why do pandas still exist? Why do sloths survive? Why hasn't everything become a perfectly optimized killing machine? Fittest sounds like we know what it means. But watch. Who survives? The fittest. Who's the fittest? Those who survive. It's completely circular. Not an explanation, just renaming the question. The real answer changes what better means entirely. Evolution doesn't care about strength at all. The reason has nothing to do with being superior. It's about what fit actually measures. Everyone says survival of the fittest like it explains something. The phrase has this confident ring to it. But here's what's strange. I didn't coin it. Herbert Spencer did. He was a philosopher, not a naturalist. I adopted it reluctantly in later editions of my work because it was catching on. But watch what happens when you try to use it. Why does this organism survive? Because it's fit. How do you know it's fit? Because it survived. Completely circular. It tells you nothing about why or how. It's just a label we slap on after the fact. So what does fit actually mean? Here's where we need to be precise. Fit, like a key fits a lock. Not fit like an athlete. It's about matching your environment, not about strength. Consider the contrast. A lion versus moss. The lion is powerful, fast, sophisticated nervous system, complex hunting behaviors. Moss? No brain, no movement, no senses. Just sits there turning sunlight into structure. Common view says the lion is more evolved, the moss is primitive. Wrong. Both are perfectly fit to their circumstances. Moss has survived 450 million years, longer than lions, longer than all mammals, longer than flowering plants. If evolution favored advancement, moss should have been outcompeted and gone extinct ages ago. Instead, it covers huge swaths of Earth, thriving. Which brings us to the real question. Fit to do what exactly? Evolution has one measure, leaving descendants. That's it. Not survival itself. Reproduction. Doesn't matter if you're strong, beautiful, intelligent, long-lived. If you don't reproduce, your traits disappear from the population. If you reproduce abundantly, your traits spread. The organism that lives 100 years but leaves no offspring? Evolutionary dead end. The organism that lives one season but leaves 1,000 offspring? Evolutionary success. It's brutal in its simplicity. Now you might ask, doesn't that mean the best reproducers win? Well, not exactly. Best changes completely depending on where you are. Take an example from my own observations in the Galapagos. The finches. Same ancestral species, different islands, utterly different beaks. Not because one beak design is better in some absolute sense. Each beak fits the seeds available on its particular island. On one island, large, hard nuts dominate. The finches there have massive, powerful beaks perfect for cracking them. That same beak on another island with tiny, soft seeds, clumsy, wasteful, requires too much energy to maintain. The small, delicate beak on that island is fitter. Reverse the islands, you reverse the advantage. The exact same trait can be beneficial or detrimental. It's entirely contextual. Nothing is universally advanced. A polar bear is perfectly fit for the Arctic. It would die in days in a desert. A cactus is perfectly fit for the desert. It would rot in a rainforest. No hierarchy, just matching. But wait, if everything just matches its environment, why does anything ever change? Here's what forces it. Environments don't stay still. Climate shifts. Continents drift. New species arrive. Old ones die out. Rivers change course. What was fit yesterday becomes unfit tomorrow. Consider the Irish elk. Magnificent creature. Enormous antlers that could span 12 feet across. For thousands of years, those antlers were advantageous. They displayed health to potential mates, attracted females, intimidated rival males. The bigger your antlers, the more offspring you left. Selection pushed the antlers bigger and bigger, generation after generation. Then the environment changed. The forests became denser after the last ice age. Suddenly, those massive antlers, the very feature that had been prized, became a catastrophic liability. They caught on branches, slowed escape from predators, required enormous energy to grow each year. What was fittest became a death sentence. The Irish elk went extinct roughly 8,000 years ago, not because they were weak, because they were too specialized for conditions that disappeared. The best can become the worst overnight. No organism evolves toward some perfect form. They evolve toward whatever works right now, and right now keeps shifting. Actually, this reveals something deeper about what evolution isn't. This is what people get most wrong. Evolution isn't climbing toward anything. There's no ladder, no progress, no improvement toward some ideal, just constant adjustment to changing circumstances. Think about bacteria for a moment. Single cells, no nucleus. Incredibly simple by our standards. They've been around 3.5 billion years. Still here, still thriving. They outnumber us so catastrophically, it's almost absurd. Are they less evolved than us? No, they're differently evolved. They reproduce every 20 minutes under good conditions. When the environment changes, they can adapt in days through sheer generational turnover. We take decades per generation. Their simplicity is their advantage. Minimal complexity means minimal things that can go wrong, minimal energy requirements, maximum adaptability. Complexity isn't superior, it's just one strategy among many. Some environments favor complexity, many favor simplicity, most favor something in between. There's no direction to any of this. Which means the strangest organisms might be perfectly sensible once you understand their circumstances. Consider the sloth. It moves so slowly it seems vulnerable, barely defends itself. By survival of the fittest. Logic, meaning strongest, fastest. It should have gone extinct long ago. Instead, it's thriving in the rainforest canopy. Why? Because slow is efficient. Its metabolism is so low it barely needs food. In the canopy where food is scattered and hard to find, this is brilliant. Fast movement would waste energy the sloth doesn't have. And here's the thing. Slow movement makes the sloth nearly invisible to predators. Eagles and jaguars hunt by detecting motion. The sloth moves so gradually it doesn't trigger their hunting instincts. What looks like weakness is sophisticated adaptation. Or take the giant panda. It eats bamboo, one of the least nutritious foods available. Terrible diet. In the abstract, you'd think natural selection should favor a better food. Choice. But here's what matters. Bamboo is everywhere in their habitat, grows year-round, reliably, abundantly. Most animals can't digest it properly. The panda evolved the gut bacteria and digestive adaptations to handle it. Inefficient? Yes, but it's an uncontested food source. No competition whatsoever. The better foods, fruits, meats, nutrient-dense plants, are fought over by dozens of species. Bamboo? Just pandas. The seemingly inferior choice became an advantage precisely because it was available and ignored by everyone else. This is what fit means. Not optimal in the abstract, but functional in reality. Let me prove this to you with something I tested myself. I spent 8 years studying barnacles. My colleagues thought I'd gone mad. But here's what I found. No two species were identical. Each was perfectly shaped for its specific tidal zone. The high-tide barnacles had thick shells, could seal themselves up tight, survive hours of air exposure when the tide went out. The low-tide barnacles had thinner shells, different proportions, different attachment strategies. They stayed underwater longer, didn't need the same defenses against desiccation. Now, when I moved high-tide barnacles to the low zone, they grew sluggishly, reproduced poorly. They were built for one set of conditions. When I moved low-tide barnacles to the high zone, they dried out, struggled to survive the exposure. Each species was fittest only in its specific band of rock. A few inches of vertical difference determined everything. We can measure this precisely. Count offspring. Track survival rates over seasons. document which traits spread through the population and which disappear. The data is clear. Advantage is local, specific, and temporary. What works here doesn't work 3 inches higher on the rock face. What works now didn't work when sea levels were different. There's no universal best. And this pattern appears everywhere once you start looking. We humans assume we're evolution's crowning achievement. Large brains, tool use, language, culture. Surely we're more evolved than everything else. Wrong. We're differently evolved. Our brains are expensive. They use 20% of our body's energy while being only 2% of our body weight. That's catastrophically inefficient. It only works because we can secure consistent, high-quality food through cooperation and tools. In an environment where food is scarce and unpredictable, our brains become a liability. Many organisms would outlast us. Cockroaches can survive conditions that would kill us instantly. Tardigrades can endure the vacuum of space, extreme radiation, temperature swings that would shred our cells. We die if our core temperature shifts 10 degrees. Are tardigrades fitter than us? In many contexts, absolutely. And consider longevity. We've been around, modern humans, maybe 300,000 years. Sharks? 450 million years. Horseshoe crabs? 450 million years. Cyanobacteria? 3.5 billion years. If longevity indicates fitness, bacteria win by a ridiculous margin. We're not the end point. We're not even close. We're one branch among millions, adapted for a specific set of circumstances. Those circumstances change, we change, or we vanish. Just like everything else. There's nothing special about us in evolutionary terms. Actually, that means something stranger about the whole process. Evolution doesn't select for better. It just removes worse. And even worse is only temporary, only local. Organisms with traits poorly matched to their current environment leave fewer offspring. Those offspring carry those traits less frequently into the next generation. Over time, poorly matched traits become rare in the population. But here's the key. This doesn't create progress. It creates tracking. The population tracks the environment. Like a shadow follows an object. The shadow isn't trying to match the object's shape. It just does because of how light works. Evolution isn't trying to improve species. Populations just shift automatically because of how reproduction works. Organisms better matched to current conditions reproduce more. Their traits become more common. Conditions change, different traits become better matched. The population composition shifts again. It's endless, directionless, automatic. No goal, no destination. Just constant, passive tracking of whatever conditions happen to exist right now, which raises an uncomfortable question. Are we still evolving? Right now? Yes. We don't notice because it happens slowly relative to a human lifetime, but it's happening. Take lactose tolerance. Most mammals lose the ability to digest milk after weaning. The gene that produces lactase, the enzyme that breaks down milk sugar, turns off. In humans from herding cultures, a mutation arose maybe 10,000 years ago. Keep producing lactase into adulthood. Suddenly, milk became a viable food source for adults. In populations with domesticated dairy animals, this mutation spread rapidly. The people who carried it could extract nutrition from milk their entire lives. They left more descendants. In populations without dairy, the mutation stayed rare. No advantage, no spread. We can map this genetically. We can see which populations have it, trace it back to pastoral cultures. Evolution in real time. Or the sickle cell trait in regions with endemic malaria. Or high-altitude adaptations in Tibet, where people have evolved more efficient oxygen use at elevation. We're not done evolving. We'll never be done. So where does that leave the idea of survival of the fittest? It isn't wrong, exactly. It's just empty without properly defining fit. And once you define it correctly, matched to the current environment, it loses all the baggage we pile onto it. No hierarchy, no progress, no cosmic direction, no ladder climbing toward perfection, just organisms leaving. Descendants in whatever circumstances they happen to find themselves. Some circumstances favor strength. Some favor weakness. Some favor speed. Some favor slowness. Some favor complexity. Some favor simplicity. Most favor being average, inconspicuous, good enough. Fit means fitting, that's all. Not superior, not advanced, not better in any absolute sense. Just matched to right here, right now. Everything else, all the drama we attach to it, all the implications we draw for society, all the hierarchies we construct. That's us projecting. That's not in the mechanism. Next question. How do new traits even arise in the first place? Where does variation come from? That's a different story altogether. It's about inheritance, about what gets passed from parent to offspring, about what I couldn't fully explain in my time. I knew traits were inherited somehow, but I didn't know the mechanism. Gregor Mendel was working it out with his peas while I was writing, but I never saw his work. The discovery of genes, of DNA, of mutation, all that came later, it fills in the picture. But the core principle, fit means fitting. Everything else follows from that. The rest is just details about how the fitting happens, how variation arises, how traits get passed along. I've got to stop somewhere. But understand this, there's no direction, no goal, no peak, just endless local adjustment. And that's more than enough to explain the endless forms most beautiful that fill this world.